Of La Penta. This is WICR.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the Sports Vault. I'm your host with the most, Jersey Joe Archino, and I like asking realistic questions, and that is something that I'm asking as of this morning. Are the Dolphins asking the same questions that I am? Obviously, if you've followed the news so far this morning, you'll see one of the big points that Ryan Tannehill, the quarterback for the Miami Dolphins, receiving an extension. Adam Schefter reported that the contract is worth $96 million over 6 years with $45 million fully guaranteed. And that begs, I guess it's kind of a statement there, and the Dolphins kind of validate the fact that they believe in him. He is their franchise quarterback, and they've certainly paid him and believe that. And it really is interesting because I think all year during the show, whenever I was on with other people's shows, watching the games with people, it's always a question that you get asked is, what are your thoughts on Ryan Tannehill? And I just don't know if I've ever seen or had the belief that this was the go-to surefire, can't-miss franchise quarterback for the Miami Dolphins. Now, I think he's the best thing that they've had at quarterback in a long, long time. I mean, aside from the season with Chad Pennington, with Sperano there, and when things started to finally go well there, that's really the only stable year they've had a quarterback in a long, long time, really since the Marino days, and certainly Tannehill has been better than the long line of just mediocre and just bad quarterbacks that they've had, but I still don't know if you can say for certain that this is the franchise quarterback. Now, I didn't know what to expect out of the numbers. Now, the numbers aren't bad. I was expecting them to not be as great, but the numbers are actually pretty good when you look at him. I mean, certainly in terms of the interceptions, there is the improvement, which you always like to see. I mean, his rookie year, he had the 13, he had 17 his second year, and then he cut it back down to 12 last year. I mean, last year, by all terms, was his best season, 27 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. The numbers aren't bad, but again, it doesn't always correlate to the wins, and that's the thing that has me the most concerned when you look at Tannehill under his tenure. Now, he has started every game during his NFL career so far, which, again, durability is always something that you take into account, and it's something that he's had. But 7-9 2012, 8-8 and 8-8. That's where my problems with Ryan Tannehill start to come in. I honestly don't know if I can ever envision him taking that next jump from being an 8-8 quarterback or a 7-9 quarterback. I think, honestly, Ryan Tannehill is what he is. He's an 8-8 quarterback. He's not going to be the best in the world ever, but he's never going to be bad enough where you're really going to want to throw him under the bus. I just think this is what Ryan Tannehill is. He's 8-8. This is kind of the Dolphins, what they are right now, and it's one of the things where I think we all kind of rank the quarterbacks. There's the tiers, you have the tier 1 with the Lucks, with the Bradys, with the Brees, with the Mannings. You have tier 2s with guys like Phillip Rivers and Matt Staff. Actually, I don't know if that's true. Phillip Rivers kind of has gone back up to possibly that tier 1 with the play that he's had recently. I mean, he was bumped down to that tier 2 for a while, and then he certainly has brought himself back up to that tier 1. Tony Romo, again, was another one of those guys who was kind of stuck in that tier 2 for a while. He's kind of gone up to tier 1 with how well he played last year. And so tier 2 is like the Matt Staffords, guys like that. And then tier 3, I think you have the guys like Ryan Tannehill, Andy Dalton, guys who, again, they put up not bad numbers. Their teams win some games, but I don't think that you ever realistically consider them to do any jaw-dropping moments in the NFL. Tier 1 is where you obviously everybody would like to be, but it's very difficult to have a tier 1 quarterback. I mean, tier 1, there really is only a handful. I mean, at the end of the day, you can really only count maybe 5 or 6 guys who are ever going to be tier 1, and to get one of those guys is just at the end of the day so hard and so difficult. Tier 2 is where I think a lot of people kind of want to sit. You can win with a tier 2. Look at Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco is the perfect example of a tier 2 quarterback. He's not in the same level of a Manning or a Brady or an Andrew Luck, but he does a lot of things well. He's won a Super Bowl. He's got the hardware to back it up. I think Russell Wilson is a tier 2 quarterback. The guy does tons of things tremendously well. I don't think any of us ever consider him in the same level as those top 5 elite guys, but I still think that at the end of the day, we always count him as one of the best. And again, he has the hardware to back it up. Tier 1, Tier 2 is really where you always want to be, and I don't think I've ever considered Ryan Tannehill more than a Tier 3 quarterback. Now, I have this ranking. Maybe if I find the list somewhere, I'll put it up, or I'll put the link up somewhere, but I think at the end of the day, that is what he'll always be. Now, is there room for him to get better? Absolutely. And that's the encouraging thing about him is when you look at the numbers, clearly, I mean, when you're a quarterback, the number one thing that you always want to see is the cut down in turnovers, and that's something that he has done. I mean, his first year he had them kind of high, and then it did jump in his second year, but then it went back down. Now the first year only 13, the second year 17, then back down to 12. Now he started off the season very, very well last year, and that's when I was starting to kind of turn around to his side, but certainly wasn't a great finish for the Miami Dolphins. A lot of his games in the final stretch were not good at all, and I think it's all comes down to the consistency with him, and that's probably the biggest question mark that I have with Ryan Tannehill is the consistency. I don't know if it's ever been there for me yet, that consistency that you need to see from him. Certainly he's put together good stretches, and he's had good stretches where he's looked like a very promising quarterback, but I don't know if I've seen that complete consistency that I need to certainly say that he's warranted this deal. Now, again, finding quarterbacks in the NFL, guys who can actually go out there and win 8 games alone, is an incredibly difficult feat in itself. So I think when you're a franchise and you find a guy, you hitch your wagon to him, and clearly that's what the Dolphins have done. Now, this isn't one of the most insane quarterback deals that we've seen out there, but again, it is pretty significant, and the Dolphins have clearly put the confidence in him, which I think is good, because there were points last year where you remembered where there was some times where you weren't always sure if they were on his side, but clearly there is. I think Joe Philbin, this is a really big year. He's certainly going to be one of those guys who's definitely on the hot seat. I don't think he could survive another 8-8 season this year. The Dolphins really have to do something, and look, they've been the team who's won free agency the last couple of seasons, and winning that free agency hasn't won a lot of football games. 8-8 again, 7-9, 8-8, 8-8. Ndamukong Suh, Mike Wallace, the big free agents haven't done a tremendous amount. Clearly, bringing in Ndamukong Suh, you would think is going to be a big force to an already good defense. But I mean, man, when you look at the AFC East, that division has only gotten better. Everybody in that division, except for the Patriots, which is kind of funny coming off the Super Bowl win, has gotten better. The Bills are better. Rex is in there. LaShawn McCoy. Who knows what they do at quarterback, but they have some talented playmakers on both sides of the ball. You look at what the Dolphins have done. Clearly, they've gotten better. They have their quarterback locked up now. And then the Jets, I don't know if there's any team in the NFL who's had a better offseason so far than the New York Jets, but it does all come down to quarterback play, and that's why at the end of the day we'll see. But I'm not sure. I mean, if I had to make a final call on this, I would say I wouldn't have done it, only because I'm still not certain that he is a franchise quarterback for this team. For in the NFL in general, I'm still not sure. But again, I still wasn't sure about Andy Dalton, and I thought last year was going to tell me what I needed to know about Andy Dalton, and basically everything that I already thought that I knew about Andy Dalton was proven correct. He's a good quarterback. He's a guy who does things well. He's led them to the playoffs I think every single year so far. But again, it's that one and done, one and done, one and done. Will he ever get past that point? He hasn't shown it so far. And sometimes I think the writing is on the walls, and that might be what Andy Dalton is. He's a guy who's going to win a lot of football games. You'll get into that playoff hunt. You'll be in there. But at the end of the day, is he really going to win playoff games? I think that's the same thing with Ryan Tannehill. Is he ever more than an 8-8 quarterback? Still very young. Still has a lot of room to do things. But I think that's what I think he is at this point, an 8-8 quarterback. I don't know if he's ever going to be any more. But right now, clearly the Dolphins have locked him up. But that's just my thoughts on the matter. We'll reshift, we'll refocus. We'll get into some more topics, so don't go anywhere. I'll be right back.